Mummy B, Scene 13. On the way home I started thinking about my own experiment with diapers earlier that day. The feeling of lying there in bed and just letting go went beyond description. It was something I was pretty sure I wanted to experience again. Too bad I had to give the goodnights to Jane. You know, I reasoned with myself, just because I didn't wet the bed again last night doesn't mean it won't happen again. Maybe I should pick up something just in case. I pulled my car into the parking lot of the same drugstore that I had bought Jane's goodnights at just a couple days ago. This time my trepidation was somewhat mixed with feelings of excitement. Remembering that the goodnights didn't fit me very well, I figured I should find something bigger. I thought about the real diapers Jane had been made to wear. Immediately I knew that I wanted to try them. After making my way to the incontinence aisle, I searched through the various offerings. I settled on a pack of overnight, extra absorbent medium briefs and I made my way to the front. Secretly thanking the inventor of the self-checkout, I quickly made my purchase and left the store. Fortunately, when I arrived home I found the house to be empty. I carried the pack of diapers upstairs and hid them in my closet. Resisting the urge to open the package and put one on, I decided instead to wait until bedtime. I hurried through dinner, making idle conversation with my about school and such. After putting my plate in the sink, I announced that I was tired and turning in early. Going up to my room, I locked the door. Excited and somewhat nervous, I retrieved the package from my closet. Pulling one brief from the package, I spread it out on my bed. Taping a diaper on myself proved to be quite a bit more difficult than putting the one on Jane the previous day. After readjusting the tape several times, I managed to get it on snugly. I pulled a pair of sweats on over top and climbed in bed. Just as I was getting comfortable, my phone rang. "Hello," I answered. "Peter," Jane's voice came over the line in a whisper, "there's a goodnight missing from the pack you gave me." "What happened to it?" "Oh. Now what do I do?" I thought to myself. "Peter." Jane whispered a bit louder, "Are you there? I really need that goodnight. Mom came up and asked for the second pack this evening and the first thing she did was count them." "Where could it be?" I mean. It must have fallen out in the back of my car." I immediately winced at the lie I had just told my best friend. "Well, I hope so. I told Mom it must be under my bed or something. I got lucky this time 'cause Mom's got an early meeting tomorrow. She just said I'd better find it or else and went off to bed." "I really don't want to know what or else means, Peter. Please make sure you find it." Jane pleaded. "She probably won't ask in the morning since she's leaving early, but I know she'll be expecting me to have it when she gets home." "Don't worry, I'll have it in the morning," I assured her. How exactly I was going to manage that I had no idea. "Thanks, Peter, you're a really good friend. You know, sometimes I think that maybe we should." "I mean that I mean you. I mean you're great, Peter. You're a great friend. Good night." Jane sounded obviously flustered. "Good night," I answered back as I hung up the phone. What was that all about? I wondered. But it didn't really matter. Whatever Jane trying to say, whatever she was about to confess, only one thing was on my mind. I had just lied to my best friend. I felt horrible. The diaper I was so excited about trying didn't matter anymore. I laid in bed thinking about what to do next. I guess in the morning I would return the store, buy another pack of goodnights and take one out of that pack to give to Jane. At least that will keep her out of trouble, I told myself. Still, I felt bad. Jane had been so open and honest with me about her bedwetting, her diapers, everything. But I just couldn't tell her the reason the goodnight was missing was that I had worn it. Still, if she knew I had had an accident, maybe she wouldn't feel so bad about her own. And I knew she wouldn't think any less of me. Being completely honest though, I hadn't just worn that goodnight because I was afraid of another accident. And I certainly had not wet it on accident. I definitely couldn't tell Jane that part. I tossed and turned the rest of the night trying to decide what to do. I had barely closed my eyes when I was jarred awake by my alarm clock. I sat up in bed and shut off my alarm. It took me a minute to remember what I was wearing. I pulled back the covers. The diaper was completely dry. I was definitely not becoming a bedwetter again. However, this morning I didn't feel like using my diaper. I just tore it off, balled it up, and shoved it into the bottom of my waste basket. I stepped into the shower, still dwelling on the lie I had told Jane the night before. Jane trusted me so much and I hadn't trusted her at all. As I finished up my shower, I became resolved at what I had to do. I would tell Jane the truth. Well, most of it anyway. I would tell her about my accident and that I had tried one of the good nights. I would leave out the details of the dream that had caused the accident and any ulterior reasons I had for wearing one the next night. I got dressed and hid the dry, balled-up diaper in the bottom of my book bag. As I got in the car and pulled out of my driveway, another realization hit me. I could be honest with Jane, but this still didn't solve the problem with her mother. Her mom was still expecting Jane to produce the goodnight that afternoon. If Jane's mom found out I was the reason it was missing, then she would know I had been involved. Then it would be just a few short dots for her connect that I had been at the house with Jane alone. That wouldn't end well for either one of us. There was only one thing to do. I turned my car in the direction of the drugstore. As I walked through the door of the store, I realized if any employees had paid attention to my purchases over the past few days, they probably thought we had a lot of bedwetters at my house. Still, being that this was a drugstore, I doubt my purchase was all that unusual. They probably hadn't even noticed. When I got to the diaper aisle, it became apparent exactly how not unusual my purchase really was. The shelf for girls' LXL goodnights was empty. Apparently there were a lot more people out there wetting their beds than I realized. My mind wandered for a moment, wondering if any of the other girls at my school had purchased the other packs. Still, this was a problem. I was supposed to be in school in 15 minutes and I had no goodnight to give to Jane. I'd just have to figure something out later. Getting detention for being late would certainly not improve the situation. I got to school, parked the car and entered the building with only a few minutes to spare. Jane was waiting by my locker. "Oh, thank goodness, Peter," Jane exclaimed. "I was beginning to think you weren't coming. If you were absent today, I don't know what I would have done. Please tell me you have the thing." "It'll be fine," I said, trying to avoid lying again. "You did find it?" Jane started to look worried. "We'll talk at lunch," I replied. "We got to get to class." "Peter." Jane started, but was cut off by the bell. We both hurried off to our first class. I wasn't looking forward to lunch today. I tried to avoid talking with Jane until lunchtime. I ducked into the bathroom between classes and said I had to go back to my locker for something I forgot. I hoped Jane didn't think was mad at her. When lunch finally rolled around, I guided Jane over to a table in the far corner of the cafeteria. "All right, Peter, what's going on?" Jane sounded perturbed. "You're acting pretty weird. Did you find the freaking diaper or what?" "I didn't find it," I started. Jane's expression went from annoyed to worried. "I didn't find it, because I couldn't," I continued. "What do you mean you couldn't?" Jane was sounding panicked again. "You've got to find it, Peter. You got to look again. Do you know what's going to happen to me if I don't have it when Mom gets home this afternoon? She said that I would." "Look, there's no point in looking again," I said, cutting her off. "It's not there." "What do you mean it's not there?" Jane replied. "It's got to be there. It's not like you used it or something." "Well, actually." Jane's eyes got wide. "Peter. You mean you used it? Why?" "Just listen." I replied. This hard for me to say, but I had an accident the other night. "What do you mean an accident?" Jane asked. "Is this that boy thing?" "No, like a real accident," I answered. She of all people should have known what I meant. "Look," I explained, "I had this dream and I woke and I had peed in my bed. I'm sorry, I should have told you." "I mean, you told me about all your accidents." Well, maybe not all of them, Jane said, blushing slightly. I've had those kinds of dreams too. Was it the one where you think you're sitting on the toilet only to wake up and find there was never a toilet at all, just your mattress? Yeah, that's the one, I said, deciding that was a better option than telling her my real dream. But you've told me about that you used to, wet, I reminded Jane. No, I told you I used to wet the bed, like back when we were freshmen. Jane was blushing furiously now. I've had those kind of dreams more recently, like this past summer. Oh, okay, I said, trying to sound like it wasn't a big deal. Anyway, I had several of these incidents last summer, Jane went on, and that's why my mom had the good night still. And why you have a plastic sheet on your bed, I said without thinking. How do you know about that? Jane looked mortified. Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you, I assured her, when I went up to get your thing. The other day I noticed. Really, it's no big deal. I mean, with everything else you've told me, a plastic sheet is no big thing. I know, Jane admitted, it's just that. Well, I haven't needed it for a while, well, a few months at least. Mom just hasn't taken it off my bed yet. It's fine, I repeated. I mean, I wish I had one on my bed the other night. My mattress was completely soaked. So that's why you wore one of my, Jane said, putting it all together. Yes, I replied, I didn't want to take a chance on ruining the other side of my mattress. But they're girls' goodnights, Jane noted. You mean you wore? It was better than the alternative, I stated flatly. Still, I would have liked to have seen that, she shot back. That is not going to happen, I replied emphatically. But you've seen me in mine, Jane gave me a fake pout. Still, I said, not going to happen. We'll see about that, Jane responded. I wasn't sure I liked that look in her eye.